So we're in your government book. We are in chapter 11 now, and the last two sections, section 5 and section 6, are on local government. Now we went over the state government, and we definitely have gone over the federal government. And so this short section, these two areas are going to talk about local government. There are 85,000 units of local government in our countries. Why so many? Because these include things like our counties, our towns, townships, municipalities, which are cities, and special districts. So 85,000 units is quite a lot. So, and they directly affect our everyday activities of all of the American people. And this is the government that's closest to the people. And these are subdivided from their states. So the state government subdivides it all into local government. Each unit is created by the states and by the constitutional provision or laws that are under the state. And the local governments can only exercise powers that are given by the state. So let's go down and talk a little bit more about the government. We're going to talk about the county government first. The county government is the largest unit of local government. Counties exist in every state except for Rhode Island and Connecticut. Every single state has county government. In most states, these counties are called parishes, except in Louisiana and in Alaska, they're called boroughs. So when you hear the word boroughs or parishes, you've got to think of counties. There are over 3,000 counties in the United States. Texas has a whopping 54 counties, and Delaware has only 3. Some of these counties are huge, very large in geographic size, and some of them are small. In California, in San Bernardino County, it's 20,000 square miles of county. 20,000 square miles in California. In New York County, it's only 23 miles of square county. In Los Angeles County and the Cook County in Chicago, one's in, of course, Los Angeles in California, there's millions of people in one county. And some counties only have 1,000 people or even fewer. So you can see that some counties are very different than others. Some are large geographical areas, some small, some have a large population, and some have a smaller population. And some are called parishes and some are called boroughs, So, and some states have a lot more counties, as I said before. So the development of county government. County government, go back in history, is a concept of America's British heritage. Of course, it came from England. In England, they had counties, but they called these counties shires. In America, county developed in mostly the southern colonies. So when we think of going back to their 13 colonies, the southern colonies had counties. Why do you think they had counties in the southern area, not in the northern? Well, because the southern area had larger areas, plantation areas, in fact, that they called counties, and they were mainly in rural. Rural means what? Country, out in the country, right? And urban means city. Well, in the South, they mainly had rural or farm plantations, farming areas, and so they had to have larger counties. And basically, why? Because counties, the main issue for the counties at that time was they need to have some kind of planned road construction. So to get around, they needed road construction, so they would have to have counties. So let's go on to the next page here. So counties, of course, were chosen, basically had functions, I should say. Counties played an important role in government in serving the citizens in the rural areas. Now, counties in New England, of course, in New England, they had little towns, so they didn't have as many counties in New England. So the functions, of course, were to basically play a part in planning roads and construction and responsibilities and all these things of the county. Here you can see some of the functions of the county government here. So here's one of them. One function of the county government is to build and maintain public roads. That's a major part. So the counties also have a county seat. So what is a county seat? A county seat is basically a city in the county where the county's headquarters are. Of course, they have to have a headquarters, so they call the headquarters, this little town or city, sometimes city, a county seat. And they also have a courthouse, is a county building in that county seat. So, and what do they do? Let's talk about now, what do they do? It's the county seat and the county courthouse, but now what do counties do? So here's some of the things listed here. So counties administer, enforce the state laws and of the county laws, basically what the state gives them to be able to do, you know, and these ordinances, they call them ordinances, and ordinances are county laws. And so some of the county responsibilities would be things like preserving the peace, or maintaining the jails, or maintaining the public buildings and libraries. The library is a very important maintenance of the county. Also, operating the school system would be the major thing. Addressing property for taxes purpose, levying and collecting taxes of the county taxes, of course, and dispensing county funds are all in that economic area of what the county does. So they assess their property taxes and levy these taxes and collect taxes. Building and maintaining roads, bridges, draining systems, public works are another thing the county does. Also, a county will give permits for hunting and fishing. Marriage license and divorces a lot of times are held by the county. At the county records, you can find property deeds, births and deaths and marriages, and also the county is responsible for conducting elections and sometimes caring for the needy. And nowadays the county has also come into protecting and promoting some public health. So a wide variety of things that the county does. The organization of county government. Let's talk about that. In recent, before the organization, it says basically in recent years, counties have taken on more functions of the cities. So a lot of times now counties will also provide for water and sewerage and fire protection and medical services, which they haven't before. So counties do a lot more varied things, as you can see. That's covering a lot. And some counties even have operated airports and mass transits in their counties. And others have put forth a lot of recreational facilities. You know, when you think of counties putting in recreation parks and such in their counties. So all of these are covered now in modern days, in recent years, by rural, suburban, more heavily populated areas depending on the county. We're talking about county now. So now let's talk about the organization of county government. So the organization of county government varies a lot, and most counties have no executive administrator at all. Instead of having a certain person, executive person, like, you know, a governor or mayor or such, taking over, they have a board, or they have a board that shares all the powers. And this board is elected by the people, by elected officials. And the boards, usually, a lot of times they'll have several boards. They have a board to do the executive things that are important to be carried out, and they have boards that also do the legislative, making the laws, and they also have boards with the judicial power in the courts. So several boards for each distinct thing that the county government needs to do. There are also a number of boards for like special things like a health board and a hospital board or a planning board or a county fair board. They're putting together the county fair. They'll have a board for that. Most of these boards also have, these county boards also have a lot of bureaucracy. Like they have clerks and they have secretaries and they employ people to work for everyday tasks. So they have a lot of people working for these county boards. Most of the county boards are elected, popular. That means that people vote for them. They have a governing body. They represent districts with members. Most of these boards have 2 to 8 have terms of 2 to 8 years. So you can elect somebody there and they could stay for 8 years actually on their county board. So there's 2 types listed here, 2 types of boards. The first board is the Board of Commissioners, and this is the most common. Usually it's like 3 to 7 members, and they're elected and they hold no other office. That's their office, the Board of Commissioners. And then there's the Board of Supervisor, and this is a larger body, and usually the Board of Supervisors, if they have a Board of Supervisors instead of Commissioners, have like 12 to 50 members. They may even have in the supervisor have 100 supervisors. Can you imagine 100 supervisors? But they do. Sometimes they'll have 100 supervisors under the Board of Supervisors. And they basically hold county office or township and county office both, so they can hold 2 other offices. As for the Board of Commissioners, that's the only office they can hold. The Board of Supervisors can be supervisors among different county offices. So the boards, they have important powers too. These boards, they can levy taxes, they can appropriate funds, and they can enact on health and zoning laws. They can regulate the sale of intoxicated beverages, the sale of alcohol. They can supervise road projects. They can also maintain their county buildings and appoint county officials and set salaries for them too. So that's kind of covering. So the board, just remember there's 2 types, the Board of Commissioners and the Board of Supervisors. And we're still talking about county government. So in addition here, we have the counties have county officers. Here's a picture of a county officer. This is a crime lab, which is division of the local sheriff's department and searches for evidence to use in court. So let's talk about these county officers. There's quite a few different county officers. First of all, there's the sheriff. What's the sheriff? Well, of course, sheriff has to do with police, right? So the sheriff provides police protection for the rural areas and supervises the county jail and also the detention centers, and gives court orders, and is involved in a lot of different things that you think a sheriff would do, right? In many counties, he even serves as a tax collector. So then on to the county assessor. A county assessor appraises property within the county. So if he goes into the county, see how much property is worth, so that person or that business can pay their taxes on. So county assessor assesses the worth, and his appraisal determines the property taxes that the residents will pay. On to the treasurer. The treasurer receives taxes and fees. It acts as a caretaker of the county funds. So the treasurer, and also makes payments to the authorized payments too. And on to the auditor, which supervises the county's financial records and authorizes spending. So an auditor basically goes with the treasurer. He supervises the financial. On to a clerk. What does a clerk do? The clerk is sometimes called a recorder, and the recorder maintains the records and issues various kinds of licenses. A clerk, maybe go to a clerk if you want a hunting license or a fishing license or a marriage license. All these things, you go to the clerk to get these things, or recorder, what they call it, a clerk or recorder. So also there's a prosecuting attorney. A prosecuting attorney is usually called the district attorney or the state's attorney, and he conducts the criminal investigations and prosecutes cases in the local courts. So they have their own district attorney or prosecuting attorney, especially in criminal cases. So onto the coroner, and I picture down there of the coroner. Let's go down and I'll show you again. The coroner, here. Let's see. Let's go down here. Picture there. So investigates the causes of death at coroner. Some coroners are called county medical examiners, and they're very highly trained in doing these things. Then, of course, we have a main county job is the superintendent of schools. So they administer the elementary and secondary schools, are very important. And a lot of times the superintendent of schools has to be elected. Sometimes they appointed, but mostly elected. On to other officers kind of in the midst of the officers that are also elected. Some counties have surveyors for boundary lines, engineers that oversee their construction and maintain their roads and bridges and sewer systems and public works. Sometimes they have judges that are over the local courts, and other times they have health officers for public health. Some even have agricultural agents that serve for the farmers. So a lot of different officers. So okay, and some counties have a chief executive. Most, as we said before, have boards, but some counties have a chief executive in addition to the boards, and they elect this chief executive that's known as a county president or a county supervisor. And so the county president or county supervisor is elected to make sure all the boards are doing the right things, right? So the county board sets policy, but the executive administrator, the chief guy, president, or he's chief executive, administers the day-to-day affairs and has some executive authority, but usually the boards run everything in actuality. So let's go on, because there's going to be two different plans. I need to know this right here. These are county government, the county government. There's two different plans. And as you can see here, there's the executive plan, and then there's a county manager plan. So you see the executive plan. Let's go over the executive plan first. So the executive plan, as you can see, has, as I said before, that has the voters vote in the executive plan, and they vote for their county board. But they also have a chief, a county executive, and the executive appoints the officials and the boards. I kind of went over that first, right? The plan that we just went over is the executive plan. So a lot of different counties have this plan. The voters, they elect the boards, the county board, and this county board, and they also elect a county chief, county executive, and then he appoints officials and appoints boards. So that's one. Let's see, there we go. And the other plan is the county manager plan. And as we could say, county hires a professional manager to manage the county. And this guy is very trained and is highly trained in his field of managing. And basically, as you can see here, the voters here, they elect a county board, and then the county board hires a manager to manage for them, and basically appoints the officials of the board. So let's go down here, appoints the officials of the board. So you see how that's a little different. The only difference between these two plans is we have a hired county manager in the county manager plan, right? So, basically the county board is elected, as you can see there, and the county manager is appointed. What does the county manager do? Well, he has executive power. He appoints county administrators, and he plans county budgets, and he directs the county affairs. That's the county manager. This is a clear chain of command as you go from the board to the manager, right? The board can actually fire the manager. The manager answers to the county board, and the board members face the board the voters on election day. So the voters are electing the board, and they're just electing them so that they'll have wisdom and actually in the midst of hiring a county manager who will appoint all the different officials and other boards, right? Just see the difference. Just to know, we have here a county manager, and here we have executive plan. We have a county executive that appoints it. A little bit different being hired. So just looking at that, this is kind of important because you probably have that. We're still talking about the county, not counting about cities or anything. We're talking about counties. Now let's go down to we're going to a different area now. That's just county. Now we're going to go into New England. Remember I said New England had a different form of government than county. The counties were basically for big rural areas and plantations and that, and even now they're more for rural areas. But New England had towns. So in New England, way back in history, when going to the colonies, even the colonies onto the first states, life was not really conducive to develop county government in those, because people lived in towns. And so they didn't have large land plantations in the north, and they only had little small farms and commercial activity. And so they had a lot of threats, though, of Native American and a French attack, so they desired to live very close together, and they were right under their local church. Their towns clustered together, and they all went to church together, and they found themselves in these small communities, a town. So they called themselves a town government. So, and the town became the most important unit of their local government. So New England today still has town government in a lot of those areas of New England. Instead of county or city government, there's six New England states that have town government. What are these states? Think of New England, you think of Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Those 6 New England states still have town government functions. So just look up in the Northwest, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island all have town government. They're very proud of their town governments. Each town includes all of the urban and rural territory around, and some of them from the towns are developed into townships that go outside of New England, but they love their town government, and they have town meetings. Let's go on to the next. I'll show you something about the town meetings if I can here. Here's a town meeting in a New England town. So only part of the country that has towns like these. Town meeting is very unique, and it's very traditional, and it's an example of a direct democracy. And these small towns still follow these rules, and they all are open to voters. All voters, everyone can come in. Everybody can come into the town meeting, and all qualified voters come in, and it's held once a year, maybe more. And the citizens come, and they can discuss and debate and vote on matters of taxes and local ordinances and all kinds of things. And so it's very general democracy. As for the voters, you can come in, and then the voters can speak and find out what's going on in the town government. As for their board, they have select men for their board, and they're elected. They elect a board and between their town meetings, like their county board, and they select officers too at their town meeting. They have a clerk, and they have a treasurer. They have a tax assessor, a tax collector, and they have a constable for their police, right? They call it a kind of a constable. And they have a road commissioner. They have school committees, all elected by the town and their town meetings. So but today, because of, you think of New England It's not quite as populated in some areas, but today there's many large towns that are too populated, and it's very impractical for the whole town to get together and have a meeting because there's thousands of people in the town, right? Or, you know, you have 100,000 people in a meeting. It would be pretty hard to monitor, right? So it's pretty impractical today. But some of the small towns still have these town meetings. So now a lot of the towns, though, have officers that make the decisions that are represented rather than having a direct democracy. But New Englanders still take pride in their towns. So townships. So let's go down to townships. So you think of townships. Well, what in the world? We talked about towns. Aren't townships the same thing? Nope. Townships are different because basically as the settlers, you know, back in the 1800s moved west to the Midwest especially, they had little towns, right? Little towns throughout the Midwest, kind of like New England. But they differed in form, and their township government today was different than the towns in New England. Township government today, like you can go to New Jersey and even to Nebraska, and you'll find these subdivisions of counties, but you'll also find some of these townships that are similar to counties. So, and the municipalities in the urban areas were not included in the township jurisdiction. So they'd have the township, and then they have the cities. The big cities wouldn't be in the townships. So townships were primarily rural areas. But the townships would handle roads and drainage problems. Sometimes they'd keep up the township, I should say, cemeteries, take care of the cemeteries. They had basic jobs of roads, drainage, cemeteries, minor law enforcement. Some hired policemen, and then some did also supervise the schools. So townships were kind of like county government in some ways. So, but when you think of townships, you think of Midwest, coming west. Towns from New England went into townships in the Midwest. So now let's talk a little bit, you see where we're at here, let's talk a little bit about municipal government. So what's municipal mean? It means urban. What does urban mean? It means city. So municipal government, you know, way back started, you know, in the beginning of American history with municipal government started with the growing cities. So when the Declaration of Independence was signed, America was basically rural. Most people lived on small farms and such, or very small settlements. In 1790, Philadelphia was the largest city of 42,000 people, but only 5.1% of people lived in cities. That means the other, you know, 95% lived in where? In rural areas, out in the country. So the first, the centers of commerce and trade would be the municipal areas that these cities that started to develop in the mid-1800s. We had this industrial revolution, as you recall, and manufacturing plants, you know, these big industrial plants brought in a lot of people would come in to work in the factories instead of living out in the country and farming. So in 1920, 50% of the people lived in cities, right? But in 1980, 80% of the people lived in cities. People were moving to the cities. And the towns, you know, the towns are very smaller municipality, but municipality, when you talk as for municipal, you talk about larger cities. So they had, let's go into the next page and we'll talk a little bit more about municipal government now. Now we're talking about cities. We went county, we went to towns and township. Now we're going to cities. Municipalities, and these are the cities, they had charters. And a charter, if you had a charter and you were a municipality, you would be considered incorporated. So have you ever heard the word incorporated? Incorporated. What does incorporated mean? Well, incorporated means to be designed as a legal government organization. So you're legal. So if you're an incorporated municipality, you would be a legal government organization, your city would. And you'd have certain rights and responsibilities as a municipality. And these basically be set forth in the state constitution, and the state would say, okay, now that you're incorporated, we can help you do these things. So to be incorporated, you'd have to have a number of people, a certain number of people to be incorporated, of course. So they have a number, and if you have that many people to get together and you're agreeing, it begins with a group of citizens getting together, and then they submit the petition to be incorporated to the state and say, we want to be incorporated, we got enough citizens here. And then they must be approved by the voters of that community, say, yes, we want to be incorporated. Some voters don't want to be, so whether they want to or not. Some small communities, they'll stay unincorporated. They don't want to be incorporated because they don't want the government to rule their city. So they say, no, we don't want to be incorporated. So they decide not to. Most cities are incorporated, though, and that means that they're under the jurisdiction of the county and the state, right? To be incorporated has some good things. Some good things to be incorporated are that you'll basically have state grants. Grants can give you money. So it has to be incorporated, it has to do with the money you get. So you can have a city charter. When you're incorporated, they give you a city charter, and that's a legal document that's granted to your state, which outlines the whole form of your government for the city, for incorporated municipality of the city. There are 3 types of municipal, let's go to forms of municipal government. Here we go right here. Basic forms of city government. This is where I'm going to go over, which you'll see right here on this page. Basic forms of city government. There are 3 different types, and you'll need to know these. Basic forms of city government, municipalities. Municipalities are cities. First, we have the mayor council form right here. So you'll have, this is the oldest form, and it's most widely used. And most cities that are over 500,000 people use this mayor council, to have a mayor council form, so bigger cities. And the mayor is popular elected. That means that you have to vote for the mayor, and also the city council also is elected by the voters. And sometimes, there'll be different districts that these council members will come from. The council will be the legislative body. They will make the rules and ordinances for the city. And the mayor would be the executive head. So we have the mayor council form. The city voters, they elect a mayor, and he administers the city departments. And then they elect a city council, and that city council, will be responsible too in the midst of, and they'll make all the laws and such. They'll be the legislative body, and then they'll have this body. So they really have executive, legislative, and judicial branch right here, the 3 branches of government. And so the city council will be legislative branch, and then they elect also municipal judges to be judges in the judicial system. This is similar to our government, our federal government. So that's for larger cities, have the mayor form, and they elect their mayor. And now the council manager form. The council manager, you have a manager, a city manager, right? So the council manager form, as you can see, is the most common between smaller cities, between 10,000 to 500,000. So this is usually smaller cities have a council manager form. And it's a modification of that mayor form, kind of, except, of course, you'll see they'll have a manager. So the voters elect a city council, nonpartisan. That means they're not of any party. They don't say Republican or Democrat. And they do the lawmaking, the legislative part, and then the city council appoints a manager to oversee the administration of the city, called the city manager. And this person is usually a trained professional and has broad powers to executive powers, because he appoints and directs the heads of the city departments and usually plans the budget. He oversees expenditures of funds. He's accountable to the council for his management of city affairs. He can be fired or dismissed at any time. So usually this council manager has a very weak mayor. They have a mayor, but the mayor really ends up doing hardly anything, you know. So of course this is a smaller of the two cities, but as the city manager, but the largest city has a mayor that's doing things. Since they have a manager, the manager does most of the work. Let's just say that. So you have the city electing a mayor, a city council, that the city council here does the legislative, and the judges. The same. It's actually pretty similar to this one, right? 1, 2, 3. We have the executive, we have the congressional or the legislative making the laws, and we have the judges. But the difference here is the mayor is very weak, and it ends up they appoint a city manager that administers or manages everything, and the manager will manage all of the city departments. So my brother-in-law actually is assistant city manager in this whole thing, and has that kind of form in Panama City, where I'm from, where I live now, I should say. So that's the second type. So the next is the commission form. So the commission form, as you can see, you know, there's only like, for this form, there's only like 150 50 cities in America that have this. And they just elect 5 commissioners. And these 5 commissioners are the head of the city government. And they sit as a city council. They're nonpartisan, means they're not Republican and they're not Democrat. They're just good on whatever commission that they're in charge of. And they determine the city budget, ordinances. A lot of these are the head of the police and the fire departments and the public works and public welfare. So here you have a picture of them. So the city voters, they don't elect mayor. So they elect a board of commissioners, and so they really have only two. They don't only have 2 branches of government, because they have the legislative branch making all the laws, and they have the municipal judges. And so they elect this, but this board of commissioners has 5 different areas, and each commissioner is like a manager in their own, and they elect them. They're almost like each one is a mayor, you know. They have public safety, public works, public welfare, financial services, utilities. So each commissioner, there's only, like I said, there's only 150 cities in America that have this, and that's not much, you know. So now you know, this is the city government. So the functions, what's the functions of the city government? Let's see, what does the city government do? Now you know the different kinds of how they're organized, but what does the city government do? Here we have a picture of a fire and police and their protection among the most important functions of local government. You know, that's important. You see that, but under the city. Well, the functions of the municipal government under the city, they exist to provide service to people in the jurisdiction of the city. Things, let's go. There's a lot of things, a lot of functions here. Let's go on, let's find out. Here's some functions down here. They provide police and fire protection, regulate traffic. They build and maintain the streets. They have the lighting systems, you know, the lamps and lights and such. And also water and sanitation, public health, parks and recreation. They're all under the city. The bigger cities even provide more things, like broader ranges of service, like schools and libraries and hospitals and auditoriums and stadiums and airports. They build bridges. They're in charge of public works, you know, utility companies, you know, like gas and electric and such. And some have mass transit systems. Some cities have their own gas and electric companies. And so, and just recent, a lot of cities have been involved in public welfare, like welfare systems. So let's go on a little bit to urban growth here. The Provision for Future Expansion and Development Planning Commission. They have a commission for urban growth. Urban growth, of course, is what? When the cities start growing. And most cities have a planning agency, and they call this the Planning Commission. And this Planning Commission has 3 different zones. And so they zone the cities into 3 different areas. And these are pretty easy areas to know. First of all, there's the residential area where most of the people live. Then there's a commercial area where most of the commercial activity goes on, with business. And then we have industrial. The industrial zones are where the industry is happening. And so residential usually is also divided into areas of residential. Let's go into the next here. Residential is divided into single family homes, apartments, and low income homes. And sometimes they combine, and a lot of times people in these different areas, will balk against having to be in a combination area, especially combination residential and commercial areas. And some permit combinations of housing, and some combinations of residential and commercial. But industrial is usually kept isolated from residential because of a lot of industrial aspects of it, and industrial health and such. So many may oppose this because they have individual rights and they want to use their property just where it is, and so they do not want to be able to say they have to live in a residential zone when they already have their house in an industrial zone. But the courts, the zones have to keep it very reasonable. So you just know we have residential, industrial, and commercial zones for business, right? So the growth of the suburbs. The suburbs, of course, have been growing a lot, outside of city limits. Okay, here's a picture here of San Francisco. See how big the suburb is. So now it's not just San Francisco, you got all of these suburbs. And a lot of them want to be annexed to the city, and some do not want to. Usually the annexing to the city, when they want to be part of the city, they have to be approved. The voters have to approve it, and also the city has to approve it too. So suburban voters, they usually do not want to be annexed to the city. Why do you think they wouldn't want to be annexed to the city? Well, because the city has higher taxes, right? So they'd rather not have to pay higher taxes. So they say, we don't want to be part of the city, So this is important right here, is that since conditions in the suburb may directly affect the health and safety of nearby residents, states may grant cities extra territorial powers. These are certain regulatory powers outside their city limits. For example, a city may have some jurisdiction over sanitation or fire prevention, or those extending into their boundaries. So just remember, what is it? Territorial powers. They means they have a fire department, and their fire department is actually covering another area outside of their area, because they don't want to have 2 fire departments right next to each other. That's the deal about that. So metropolitan areas, that means that the major cities, a major city is the metropolitan area. And so they mean the major city and the population surrounding it. And they may even include small cities in their metropolitan areas. And they often don't really have certain lines of jurisdiction between them. Some of them, basically, on the metropolitan areas, they're outside and they need fire and police protection in their areas that they don't have. Their small suburb doesn't have a fire department, so they need to have the extra territorial powers, and they belong in this big metropolitan area. So there's special districts that are limited to providing one or several government services that overlap cities and county lines. And sometimes they even ignore the county lines, and so they have special districts for especially school districts and fire and police districts and water and electric service districts, mass transit districts, sanitation districts, recreation districts can be not just in the city, but may cover a big metropolis area. So, and these districts provide service in the rural areas too, and they're on the rise. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there, and let's see where we're at. Oh, we're getting there. So let me go ahead and stop there.